I have herpes. No, stop, not that kind. I have tennis herpes. I've been a tennis pro for over 20 years, and I've been fortunate enough to play with some amazing people. One summer I was on the court with a new mother, and we had a great lesson. Afterwards, her nanny brought her newborn on the court. She politely asked if I mind if she nurses. Of course not, I said. I'm a dad, I get it. So she takes off her shirt and starts nursing. Most women, when they nurse, wear a scarf, something to cover up. Not this lady. The other boob was just hanging out, glaring right at me. After an intense staring contest with her left nipple, I realized I was parched. Maybe a bit dehydrated. I just played an hour of tennis in the summer heat while her other nutrient-filled, rehydrating, exposed breast was taunting me. While this lazy baby was drinking refreshing breast milk, which I was selfishly being denied, I began to think about my relationship with my mother. Growing up, I was somewhat of a tennis prodigy and wanted to be a professional tennis player. I spent many hours practicing and actually achieved a respectable ranking. Then, something changed. I started losing big matches. It started in high school and really manifested itself when I played high-level tournaments. I would position myself to win and then mysteriously fall apart and lose. I would curse, scream, smash rackets. Those of you who play tennis are thinking, I just choked. And those who don't are thinking, you're an asshole. Well, you're both right. I know finishing matches is a common problem with all tennis players, but my situation was different. The pain of losing became too overwhelming, and it sent me into a deep depression. So in college, I quit tennis. Plus, girls started giving me attention, and I got my first hand job. Ironically, she used a forehand grip. Semi-Western for you tennis players out there. So. After college, I moved to LA and got a job as a messenger. A colleague asked me if I would teach his toddler tennis. I hesitated at first since it's been years since I picked up a racket. I wasn't making much money, so I convinced myself it would be good extra income. So I started teaching, and to my surprise, it turned into a really nice side gig. I also started hitting again with a fellow pro named Lisa and really enjoyed it. Lisa entered a tournament and said I should too. No way, I said. Why? You're playing great, you're moving well. I can't, it's just too painful. She then says, I'll sleep with you if you enter. I entered the tournament, and after the first ball was struck, my old issues came roaring back. Screaming, swearing, throwing my racket. I reverted back to my pre-hand job days. And Lisa was so turned off by my behavior, she wouldn't sleep with me. I literally got screwed by not getting screwed. Depression again set in, and I vowed that day I'd never play another match again. A few years later, just when I thought I was suppressed, the itch to play tennis came roaring back. Unfortunately, nothing changed. Yet I kept playing because I so desperately wanted to figure out why I can't win. After each match, I'd suffer panic attacks, depression, and all my insecurities surfaced off the court as well. That day, I finally accepted the inevitable. I have tennis herpes. About 3 years ago, I started playing with a new client, and he was a really good player. Our agreement was if he won, he wouldn't pay my fee, which I thought was fair since I was the pro. The first time we played, I squandered 4 match points and lost the match. One day, we were playing and I had my worst outburst since childhood. I was screaming at myself on the court, broke a racket, and basically willed myself to lose. The only positive from the match was after I missed a shot and screamed, "Fuck me," An 80-year-old lady playing on the court next to me volunteered. After the match, I apologized for my behavior, and when I got into my car, tears started flowing down my face. At that moment, all my failures came front and center, and it was too much to handle. For the first and only time in my life, I was so depressed driving home on Mulholland, I thought about turning left when the road went right. That way, I would never lose another tennis match again. I thought about my amazing wife and my 2 incredible kids, and luckily regained my composure. That's when I realized I needed professional help. In 3rd grade, I started seeing a shrink who I really connected with. I gave her a call, and we decided to speak again on a regular basis. What we quickly realized was this behavior had nothing to do with tennis. We started to revisit my childhood and the struggles I had. I come from a very loving family, but like most of you, my house was a very different story. My mother is a very devoted and caring person, but she's not without her flaws. Out of nowhere, she would snap and berate me with awful language. "You're a piece of shit. You disgust me. You don't deserve to have a mother." You know, as an adult, I understand it was a sickness, but as a kid, you can't begin to comprehend why your mother would talk to you like that. She would regain her composure, and I, of course, was devastated. Unfortunately, this behavior happened all too often. One day, my shrink said, "It sounds like you don't feel like you deserve to win." She was right, but why? When my mother would say those awful things to me, it stripped me of my self-esteem and self-worth, so I didn't feel worthy of winning. And because losing was so painful, I unconsciously decided to lose so my opponent wouldn't have to deal with the pain of losing. Yet, after making these important discoveries, I continued to lose matches. Something was still missing. A couple weeks later, my 7-year-old son and I were watching Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Remember that last scene when Palpatine, that freaky bald-looking dude, was killing Luke Skywalker with Darth Vader watching? Palpatine sending beams through his hand, and Luke is yelling, "Father, please help me, Father, Father." I don't know why he talks that way. Father, right? Eventually, Darth Vader grabbed Palpatine and killed him, even though he knew it would kill himself. My son looks at me and says, "That's so cool." And then his inflection changed from excitement to sorrow and said, "Daddy, why are you crying?" I was bawling. I finally discovered the missing piece to this complex puzzle. My father. Why didn't my father protect me? Even Darth fucking Vader protected his own son. I realized at that moment I had an underlying resentment towards my dad. My father is non-confrontational, which is ironic because he's a trial lawyer. Whenever I would ask him a question, he would repeat the question. "Dad, how are you?" "How am I? I'm good." "Dad, what's for dinner?" "What's for dinner? How am I supposed to know?" I finally confronted my dad and asked him why he didn't protect me. And for the first time I can remember, he didn't repeat the question. He denied knowing about it, even though we both know he knew. To avoid conflict with my mother, he pretended it didn't exist so it would go away. It was his responsibility to protect me, but he didn't. I would do anything to protect my kids. Although sometimes when those little fuckers talk back, geez. Eventually, my parents finally owned their behavior and apologized. That's when everything changed and made me realize I deserve happiness. I've always had a love-hate relationship with tennis. The tennis court became my canvas to paint all my frustrations, and it sent me into the doldrums of severe depression. But it was also the catalyst to take a leap of faith and improve my life. I haven't had an outbreak of tennis herpes in a long time, but I know it's dormant and can resurface. And if it does, I have the tools to help me suppress it. Today, I love competing, regardless of the outcome. Just last weekend, I played a tournament. And I made it to the finals. But I was okay with it because I competed hard and I didn't lose the match. He won. I'm confident now on the court for mainly two reasons. I know I can play at a very high level, and most importantly, 80-year-old women want to fuck me.